Welcome, everyone, to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I'm your host, Christine Courtney. Our goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways that will help you lead your teams. Thanks for joining us on this leadership journey. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stepping Into Your Leadership. I am excited to have Erika Petrelli in the house, a favorite, a Stepping Into Leadership favorite, so to speak. And she's here talking about why customer service is everybody's job. So if you are someone who is in charge of customer service and that is in your job title, great, you're in the right place. If it's not in your job title, great, you're in the right place. Because the reality is that it should be everybody's responsibility at an organization. And if you are questioning that, you'll see differently over this half an hour. So I promise you will pick up some tips today from her. She has helped a lot of companies with this topic, but she's also helped us significantly for over a decade really look at our customer experience and how we can make that better, and also our employee experience, because I bet you she's going to tell us how those are linked as well. So anyway, welcome to the next 20 to 30 minutes of joy with Erika and no pressure. Hey, Erika, good morning.
That's going to be my spinoff podcast, Joy with Erika.
It should be. I want to cut.
We've just launched a new idea.
All right. So there's some context to this, right? Of why we're choosing this, because sometimes when I talk to people at companies, they absolutely are like, oh, you should meet with our customer service team, or you should meet with our product team, or you should meet with our engineers. And I'll be like, okay, what is their main focus? And it's like, we have to get better, right? Either we have to generate revenue, or we need better customer satisfaction surveys, or better employee satisfaction surveys. And oftentimes these groups are meeting separately instead of having some sort of unified vision, because as much as more companies, I think, talk about the customer and client service and will say in their values or in their mission statement that they want to be the best and we're client focused or we're customer focused, the research is showing us the opposite, that customer service ratings are down overall in America right now. And so it's saying that we're at a kind of all-time low. And that's interesting, right? Like why that is, we could probably have a whole debate on that. But what we're going to be here today is to say that even if you don't think that this is an issue, that you think you're good at it, like I think I probably did until we started looking at this and I started seeing the holes that there were. And so maybe set an intention for yourself while you're listening to say, is there one or two things I can pick up from Erika today on how to make this better? Because if you can improve the customer or client satisfaction ratings or the way that people find value in what you do, you're going to do better as a company. You're going to do better in your career and so forth. So welcome, Erika.
Thank you, Christine. It's so true. It's so funny. The sort of old school or traditional concept or idea of customer service is that it's a desk or an area, right? It's go over to the customer service desk. We don't want anything to do with that, and God help the poor people at the customer service desk, because we're standing in line to return something, to complain about something. And so these two people that were assigned that job, it was pushed off to the side as if, as you just said, that's not my job, that's their job over there. When in fact, customer service is the entire experience that you have with a person or an organization. And in today's day and age, when organizations, brands, people's reputations live or die on the review.
Mm-hmm. That's on the online review. Yeah.
If there's anyone listening that's skeptical, just think about that for a minute, right? Just think about that truth for a minute, that what's the first thing you do before you book a new hotel, go to a new city, try out a new restaurant, think about buying a certain brand of clothes. If you're like me, the first thing you do is check out what people are saying online.
And if they have 100 good reviews, but one negative, boy, you remember that negative one.
And I'm really paying attention to what is that negative one actually saying. And importantly, what's the organization's response to that negative review? Is there nothing? Is there something really good? And that's what we're going to get into today, is this idea of organizations that understand this, understand that their existence and success has everything to do with the consumer's experience of them from start to finish, from before the start to after the finish. And so that is everyone's responsibility. And so if you're not paying attention and not understanding that all it takes is, I'm going to go, if I'm not happy, I'm barking online. I'm going to go to Yelp. I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to go to the CEO. Who else can I email? We have this ridiculous keyboard power that a lot of people are using, for evil and not for good.
Sometimes in the moment, like in the line, you'll see, especially young people going
bad
right away
review.
and they're getting a bad review as you're talking to them.
You're like, give me a chance to finish this experience for you.
So true.
This is a new era. And like it or not, this is the era that we're in. And so more than ever, the customer, consumer, whatever word suits your industry, the consumer experience is everything. And so what that means is everyone associated with your organization, your brand, is a customer service agent.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to be concerned about. That actually is something that you can be delighted about. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is the delight that goes along with that and how much fun you can actually have once you embrace that truth.
Yeah, it's so true. And this happened when you worked with our company doing this. When you first talk to people like, okay, we're going to have a staff meeting to talk about, improving our customer service. Everyone's like, it's like, meh. And then you get there and when you're like, when have you been delighted by somebody? When has the customer experience delighted you and why? And we heard those stories from people that were quite touching, right? In some places. Yeah. So I'll just put it to you. So those of you out there listening, think about, when have you been delighted by somebody when you've been the customer, and what was that? And I'll just say to you, Erika, what's one story of yours that you've been were delighted by someone?
I have so many stories. Some are mine, some are others, and I'll share them all. But the most recent example of being personally delighted myself actually happened a couple years back, and it was an experience for my son, who is an avid race car fanatic, racing fanatic. So I am based in Indianapolis, which is home to the most famous racetrack on earth, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So the current president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a guy named Doug Bowles. Doug is a study of phenomenal leadership. Like, we should actually have a podcast episode that's just studying Doug Bowles and leadership lessons from Doug Bowles. But speaking to customer service experience, so Dylan, my son, 3 years, he was 9 or 10. So this has been a couple years back, had just started creating these stop motions with his race cars that he was publishing on YouTube that somehow got in the hands of one of the race car drivers, who shared it with Doug Bowles, the president, who found out that we were going to be at the track during a NASCAR weekend, texted me, got my phone number, texted me to say, hey, are you at the track? I want to meet Dylan. So imagine this, the biggest racetrack on earth, their second biggest, outside of the Indy 500, their second biggest racing event that they have of the year. So thousands and thousands and thousands of people at the track. An hour before this huge event is about to launch, televised on national TV, the president strolls up to us as if he's got nothing going on that day, pays no attention to me, which I love, locks in on Dylan, shakes his hand and says, come on, takes us on a sort of behind the scenes tour, introduces us to the announcers, introduces us to the governor who happens to be back there, and everyone, to the tech guys and everyone. He's like walking in the rooms. Hey, everybody, this is Dylan. Look at his stop motion. You can imagine. All these people are like, Doug, we've got, we're about to go live. And if I wasn't already a fan of the racetrack, if I wasn't already a fan of the brand of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I tell you what, since that moment, because Dylan walked on, he was like floating still, I will promote that track because of what Doug did for Dylan. I will tell everyone to come to, whether I was a racing fan or not, here's something you must do. You must visit this track. You must find out more about Doug Bowles. So I have become his biggest advocate years later. And that's what this is all about. What about you? Do you have one that's in your mind before I kind of give you the seeds of where it started for me?
Well, first of all, that's great, right? And again, you just demonstrated that you just told a whole bunch of new people about what they did.
Go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Exactly.
I mean, I have one that's so small. I mean, so different. But the woman who was the security guard at my kids' elementary school in Brooklyn, lovely woman. She, a lot of times, because both my husband and I are working, my parents, either my mother or my husband's mother, would pick up the kids from school, right? And anyway, when my husband's mother passed away, she was like, why hasn't, Madeline been here in so long? And I told her. And then from then on, she almost cried with me, right, in that moment. But then she made a card, the next day. She gave it to Philip when he came in. She gave it to me. She still reaches out sometimes and asks how we're doing. Like, it's just such, and here, she's the security guard. Like, she has no need to do this. But for her to always remember, like, you could tell that her value and her family was so important right from that, and how she made us feel. It was so touching that I still go, but when I don't live in Brooklyn anymore, but when I go back and see if she's there. Do you know what I mean? And see if she's there to say hello. And anyway, it's just, I thought, wow, my kids are in such good hands, because someone who's sitting there at that front desk is not just ensuring their safety, but ensuring the safety of their heart, right? Loving them. And I thought, that's amazing.
That is amazing. And what a beautiful way that you just said it, ensuring the safety of their heart. When we're talking about the kind of customer service that we're talking about today, that is exactly what it is that you're paying attention to the heart. You're paying attention to the people, not just the transaction.
Yeah.
And in both of our examples, these are people who they have a brand to uphold. Doug Bowles has to uphold the reputation and the successful execution of races at this tremendous racetrack. Your security agent has to uphold the safety of the school and the children inside the school. But what they both understood was it's the heart experience of the people coming through the doors that ripple out to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And is how you do talk about the transactions of your experience, but that you talk about for a brief period of time, and then you forget because you've moved on to another transaction. But when you have those heart experiences, you'll tell those stories forever. So when I first got interested in it was this book called Take Their Breath Away. It's in the early 2000s, Chip Bell and John Patterson. Some would say they coined the phrase, but now the phrase is used everywhere. So it's actually one of those phrases that's hard to know if they were the first ones to write about it, which is this idea of surprise and delight. It's become a favorite phrase with customer service. So now you see it everywhere. So what they talk about in Take Their Breath Away is this idea of imaginative service. So if you as an organization or a person, and I'm going to keep saying that because this is something we as individuals can do in our relationships. It doesn't have to be just customer service. Yeah. I can do this in all of my relationships, right? So it's imaginative service if that's my focus, what can I do to surprise and delight you? Then the effect is it takes your breath away. So that security guard and Doug Bowles took our breath away because of that extra. So they surprised and delighted us with their extra, right? So the effect is it takes our breath away, and the result is devoted customers. And this is the important thing. So when we talk about the age of the online reviews and how quickly you can be canceled, how quickly people are going to turn the other way because there's a million choices, devoted customers means when I inevitably make a mistake or don't live up to your expectation, if I've spent our time together in imaginative service and taking your breath away, you forgive my mistake. Or if others are like, you know what, I had a bad experience at the track, I'll be like, oh, that was a fluke. Try again. They're amazing. So your customers and your clients, your consumers become almost better advocates for you than you are for yourself if you've created this dynamic for them. So the dividends pay off because you're actually marketing for yourself secondarily. So I'll give you a secondary example.
Yeah, love it.
So years and years and years. So one of the most famous companies for this was Zappos. Okay, so when they first came, Zappos created themselves as an online shoe seller really in those early days before online shopping was what it is today. So it wasn't the norm when Zappos came onto the scene. It was equally or more likely that I would go into a brick and mortar store to do my shopping. Yep. So, but Zappos quickly, Tony Hsieh, who was the founder, really was smart to understand that we are creating experiences and it's actually more important than anything we do, connecting with people. So I'm going to empower all of my customer service agents, which is all of my employees. I'm online. I'm the person on the phone selling you shoes. I'm going to empower all of you to do whatever you need to do to make the consumer on the other side happy. Whatever you need to do. So here's my story is years and years and years ago, I'm on the subway during rush hour in New York City on the way to work. So if anyone lives or has been in New York City on a subway during a crowded rush hour, you know that you are packed in like sardines. So I'm sitting squished by somebody on this side and somebody on this side and people standing over me. Well, the guy standing over me and the girl sitting next to me were engaged, it turns out, because you're listening to everyone's conversations, of course, because you can't help it. I mean, I'm in their face.
This is before the Apple headphones. So
you can't, I'm just there with them having their experience. So the girl sitting next to me says suddenly, oh, you won't believe what I got in the mail. And she pulls out of her bag a card that is a color pen doilies, heart stickers card. You know, you would have thought she got this as a birthday card from her mom, her best friend. So she pulls out this card and then reads it out loud to her fiance. The card is from the customer service rep from Zappos who helped her pick out her wedding shoes. And the card is in multiple colors, like, thank you so much, Christine, for letting me be a part of your special day. I hope it's perfect, blah, 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 hearts and stickers and love. And this girl is like, holy moly, what an incredible love gesture. So I'm listening, and then I proceed to come in the office and be like, hey, Zappos is amazing, everybody. I've never shopped there once in my life. But hey, everybody, Zappos is the best thing ever. So we start talking about Zappos, and I become a brand ambassador for Zappos, having never once shopped there, because I watched this interaction between this young engaged couple. So then I always told Zappos as the story. That was always my story, right? So later, one of our former employees was like, let's test this theory out. So she calls up Zappos, and with the pretense of wanting to buy shoes, but I forget, they were in Salt Lake City, I think, wherever they were headquartered, right? Wherever the rep was headquartered. She says to the rep, oh, my sister and I are planning a visit to Salt Lake City. Do you have any recommendations? And they are on the phone for no less than a half an hour, not talking one bit about shoes, but this sales rep is giving her recommendations for all the things she and her sister need to do when they visit Salt Lake City, right? They're legendary for somebody's online on the phone with them trying to buy shoes and happens to share that they're working late, they're with a team of people, and the customer service rep gets their office's address and sends them pizza.
Wow.
This is the kind of stuff, this is lore. None of these even have to be true anymore.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
What happens is you just hear that this is the kind of exquisite care you'll get with Zappos. Oh, you need a good experience? Go buy from Zappos. So that's the idea of the result is devoted customers, even secondhand. If you become known for this kind of imaginative surprise and delight effort.
Well, and it's those brand ambassadors, devoted customers, but also Zappos doesn't have one sale. They don't sell anything cheaper than anyone else. So you're also not having to ruin your margins, right? So you're able to charge the highest amount, but you're offering this surprise and delight, and people are willing to go with it. You know,
they're willing to go with it.
I mean, they also have great, it's delivered quickly. It's, and this was all before they sold out. They sold to Amazon. But even when they sold to Amazon, Tony Hsieh's deal with them is you have to let us continue this way of being. Now, I haven't checked in on them recently, but, he even wrote a book, Delivering Happiness, which is, he was like, shoes is just one part of the issue. We're just delivering happiness.
That's exactly it. It's like the actual thing that you're getting a profit on is secondary in focus to the experience of the people that choose you. There's something about holding sacred the fact that, you're choosing to have your experience with me. So what can I do to make that experience simply magical?
Yeah.
Right? So another secondary example, there was literally a tweet that I saw years ago from somebody who said, for years, I have been booking hotels with the extra note request option. You know that at the bottom when it's like a request, filled in with, please put a picture of Brendan Fraser from the 1999 movie The Mummy in the room. You guys, it finally happened. Thank you, Doubletree Phoenix. And they send a picture of this, like, the picture of Brendan Fraser from The Mummy.
Oh my God. And they, instead of green M&Ms, they wanted Brendan Fraser as their...
So listen, this is hilarious, right? This person thought, what the heck? I'm going to put that in my notes and see if it ever happens. Some employee at the Doubletree in Phoenix takes 5 minutes to print out a picture, puts it in one of those plastic picture frames, and just leaves it in their desk.
That's hilarious.
I guarantee you that person will always, 100% of the time when they're in Phoenix, stay at that Doubletree. And next time I find myself in Phoenix, guess where I'm going to try to book first?
What are you going to put in the notes section? That's the question,
please,
right?
Please, So that idea of that person saw an opportunity, for an exchange, a human exchange that surprises, delights, cost zero money, and will create a lifelong devoted fan. And more likely than not, this person is going to be looking for Doubletrees in other cities that they visit, right? So this one single customer service person in the Doubletree in Phoenix has helped the brand of Doubletree worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people oftentimes also, I think when we talk about company culture, motivating your staff, when we talk about this, so many of the early blockers are, I don't have the money to do the extra stuff.
That's right.
This does not cost you extra money. You can do things that cost you extra money, but something as so silly as a picture of Brendan Fraser from The Mummy cost you nothing and very little time and yielded huge results.
Well, and also, I think if you look at it from a culture, employee and company culture place, that employee also got such a kick out of being able to do that.
How much fun.
How much
That
fun.
they had a smile on their face all day, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's not an everyday at the office, make the donuts. This is like, I got to create something. And so they're then telling people, right? And then that's spreading.
And then they're going, well, what could I do to have that same experience?
Yeah.
Right? To me, it's so much about shifting our focus to what really matters, because we get a lot caught up in the product or the bottom line or the sale. And of course that matters because we have to stay in business. But what I mean to say is, like, what really matters is what's the impact, what's that ripple, what is the shared story that we'll be telling, and how that does, like, what are the stories that people will be telling 10 years later?
Yeah. And, I think some people listening to this think, oh, that's so great. And those companies must empower their employees to do this. And, how do they impact things within wherever they are? And I think that's a valid question. Like, how do you do that without there already being a culture of that? Or whether, what are some things that companies can do or that people can do to have those effects to surprise and delight that maybe aren't a mandate from above? Or how can you create that with your employees? Because I think people do think, oh, it costs so much money, or, but it really doesn't. I know that some people empower their people that are dealing with customers every day, like dealing with the feedback, empower them for, let's say, up to a certain amount of money each day to make things right, and that it doesn't have to go through levels of bureaucracy. I know that's one thing, but what are some other things that people can do to do this, in their world?
Well, it is interesting because there is something about, especially depending if you're in a larger organization, that idea of like going through the channels, there is something important if you are at the top of that channel, if you are a leader in an organization, that there is something that does have to start from the top that says, this is something that we're committed to. So for those of you directly responsible for consumer experiences, yes, within a certain budget, we want you to do A, B, and C. But I think in general, to just simply ask that question, how do we surprise and delight our clients today? What can you do to surprise and delight your team today? What could you do that no one would expect from you today that makes their day better? What could we do to make this meeting unforgettable? Even asking those questions, because what you're trying to do is just kind of expand the normal thinking outside of, I'm going to do A today and B today in order to meet the bottom line tomorrow. But this is just saying, no, okay, beyond that, beyond the, yes, A, B, and C we have to do, how can we think differently?
Right, like a habit of thought.
A habit of thought. Now, something that's not at all what you just said, but it's a great example of this is, so this guy, Doug Dietz, who worked for GE, he was in charge of creating one of the new fancy MRI machines, right? So he and his team at GE spent many years and many millions of dollars on this state-of-the-art MRI machine. He was at the helm of it, so he was very proud. So one of the hospitals that was first using it, so he was able to be there for the launch or the first use, and he was so excited. And he'll tell the story. It had been nominated for some like sleek design, like the Oscars of design, right? He walks in like, look at me and my fancy machine, expecting to be just completely revered for this state-of-the-art experience. Like, he just couldn't be prouder of himself. So as it turns out, the first person, so he's like, imagine behind the wall, like behind the curtain, watching. The first person that he sees to come use this machine is a young girl. And as she's walking down the hall, he can hear her mother saying, don't be scared. You have to be brave. You have to be brave. And tears just streaming down her face. So upset that eventually they had to actually sedate her to get her into the machine. And so he's stunned, mortified, can't even understand. And as he's hearing from the doctor saying it's more common than not, especially for younger patients, but for all patients, that they have to have some sort of sedation because the machine is so claustrophobic, it's so loud, it's so scary. It was a terrible experience. And he was just distraught. So he took it upon himself to go to the IDEO guys, the Kelly brothers, their Stanford design school. He took a course in sort of ideation and design and came back with no multi-million-dollar budget with this idea that we're going to transform the consumer experience. So with a tiny team and a tiny budget, he created what he called the Adventure Series and created these MRI rooms that transformed into. So I think Pittsburgh was one of the first places they used it at the Children's Hospital. They had like the pirate ship room and the rocket ship room. So for example, in the rocket ship room, the MRI machine is a rocket ship. The room is painted like outer space, and the MRI tech is given a script that makes the child, the young person, feel like they're in a rocket ship. So when it gets really loud during the MRI process, they're like, ooh, we're traveling through, we've got some meteor activity outside. So the whole thing becomes a delightful adventure that kids are reported as being like, can I come back tomorrow and do it again?
Yeah.
So transform the entire experience. That's an example of someone who was focusing on the wrong thing. It's important. The MRI machine is important to save lives, but his focus was on the innovative design of the machine instead of the customer experience. And when he flipped that, he created a customer experience that surprised and delighted.
Yeah.
So, parents, especially of the children that had to go through that got to go through the Adventure Series, they're recommending people to that hospital.
Yeah.
They're recommending anyone that they can tell to go there when their child needs something because of that experience that took them to a delightful place in a scary moment,
Right. Your devoted followers, right? Wherever you are, because devoted followers will travel farther, will pay out of network costs, will pay premium. Like it's all important, right? It's important for that process. I think that's so key. One thing that I've learned that one can do is that throughout your organization, right? No matter Dietz knew that because in your story, he was there. He saw it. If he stayed in his office or at home on his Zoom, and the only people seeing that were the ground level people that think they can't change that, that don't have the power to change that, he never would have seen that opportunity. And for me, that story is like, we have to get out of our offices and get to that customer service experience as every so often, right? I mean, DoorDash is doing that now, where that everybody from the CEO, all the C-suite executives, their IT people, their engineers, everybody has to do a DoorDash at least once a month, which can you imagine? So that they're interacting with that customer experience, right?
Because it's the only way to truly know what is happening and what are the opportunities for change.
Yeah. And the more power you have, whether it's within a team, whether it's within an organization, you can actually affect that experience. So your mind is going to be going like crazy thinking of how to make this better. It's like that Undercover CEO, show.
100%.
Whenever I watch that show, it just cracks me up. And I'm like, oh my God, like that would be scary to go undercover and like figure out what people really think about you. But also like how valuable. How valuable.
And because, the examples here, like the Doug Dietz example, that's a huge budget, huge scale change, but some of them are not huge budget, huge scale. It's just really asking that question. How can I look at this differently? How can I make this better? So another personal story that had started with me reading about it in a book, The Power of Moments, was the Magic Castle Motel in Los Angeles, in the Hollywood section of Los Angeles. I had read about it in these books that talk about customer service. And the reason they talk about this Magic Castle Motel is that it's legendary for its popsicle hotline. So this red telephone by the pool is the popsicle hotline. You can pick it up and say, I would like some popsicles delivered to the pool, please. And after I read about that, I thought, that's such a cute example. Then no joke, no less than 3 other places I see the Magic Castle Motel as an example of this is just a motel that understands this is meant for families traveling. It's not a fancy hotel. They don't have like the freshest linens. They don't have all the fancy amenities. It's a motel with a pool that understands families are traveling, and so they're going to give stuff for the families. So 2 summers ago, the kids and I take a road trip to California. We fly into LA, and the first place I booked for our first night was the Magic Castle Motel. And they did not disappoint. The popsicle hotline was as delivered. You're swimming in the pool. You go to the red phone. You say, I'd like some popsicles, please. Somebody comes out with a silver platter of just your basic kiddie popsicles.
Right. Cost nothing.
Red, purple, or orange, right? But you're in the pool and they're handing it to you. They also have as many free snacks as you want, like goldfish crackers, chips at the front desk. They have a free fountain soda machine and a free soft serve ice cream machine. So limitless snacks. So this was a week-long trip all across the state of California. My son continuously says the best part about that trip was the Magic Castle Motel because of the free stuff, the free snacks, the free soft serve, the free popsicle hotline. You can't bottle that. You know what I mean? Like that is something that it's brilliant because what they say is we're not trying to compete with the 5-star luxury hotels in the Hollywood part of Los Angeles. That's not our brand. That's not who we are. We're going to cater to the families and make this the most joyful, unforgettable night or 2 nights that they spend.
So that your kid is begging you to go back.
Please go back to the Magic Castle Motel.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, yes.
Yes, we 100% of the time when we're in LA, we're going to go
look at all this free advertising they're getting to our millions of listeners.
It's so true.
Yes, it's so, and these are great examples of what people are doing. And I think the message is, what can you do to surprise and delight, whether that's in, your job, and start with your employees, start with each other, because if you start doing it for each other, it becomes a habit of thought.
Yes.
Habits of thought create behavior change, create action. And then all of a sudden people are like, how can we do it everywhere we go?
It is.
Right?
It's contagious. It's contagious.
Yeah.
And to your point, like if you're listening and you say, I have no ability to impact change. Okay. That may or may not be true. You have the ability to impact somebody's day. So let's say the next meeting you're on a Zoom. It's a virtual meeting, but you happen to know one of the people that you're meeting with, it's their birthday. Get a birthday candle. Before the meeting starts, hold up the candle and light it and say, hey, it's Christine's birthday today, everybody. Let's sing happy birthday. That is a surprise and delight that you might think, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, you just made Christine's day, so now she's inspired to maybe make somebody else's day. And that's that sort of contagious joy so if you are in a position listening and you're saying, I can't impact the kind of customer service change you're talking about, every single one of us can surprise and delight at the next meeting with the next conversation. And it does have a ripple effect out. And eventually that starts to become a culture of surprise and delight.
A few other things that I've heard and I've seen firsthand that have been successful with doing this is that one is that we have artificial intelligence is helping people so much create, customer service management tools, making sure that everybody in the organization can see where this customer has been helped or the problems that they've had. All of those AI tools are super important and valuable, but sometimes what I see is that we're relying so much on them that the human piece of it kind of gets forgotten in trying to either train people to use these tools, which some people aren't, right? Or it's like, how do you do that and this human piece of surprising and delighting with the technology is the best. Also is that it's not just customer service, like we said, but all of them, so that you're having a meeting that is different than just your department's meeting, right? So the engineers, the product developers, whatever, all meeting separately. Have once a month a client, experience meeting. And you're talking about, here's the feedback we're getting to everybody.
Yes.
And then having everybody hearing, how can we affect this process? And it doesn't have to be all the time, but what you're doing is everyone's getting the customer service feedback, not just customer service, right? Everyone's hearing it at once. 2, you're getting to break down silos, which is what people are complaining about, what employees are complaining about. So you're actually using that meeting to help go across different areas. And you're also hearing best practices about what some people can do. And you're getting different thinkers in the room.
Yeah.
And it is a habit of thought. So even with your friends, you can try this. I have a friend who's great at giving gifts, right? And I'm always just amazed at how she can surprise and delight people. And it's not about money. It's about her way that she thinks, her way that she keys in on somebody. We have a 50th birthday party tonight that we're going to. And I'm like, hey, what'd you get for him? And she's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I came up with this idea. And I'm creating a shrine. When you come into his birthday party, and she's an artist, she created this shrine of all things that were him that said, come and behold him. And it had like all these things, and he's from Arkansas and he's from this school, all these different things that would be in this shrine. I'm like, oh my God. All right. Well, I guess the t-shirt I was getting, I should up my game a little, but I thought, wow, he'll never forget that. And not only that, everybody else will see it too, when they come in, and she had such a ball doing it, So I think it is a matter of like, okay, how do you take a version of that wherever you are? You're great at it, Erika, doing it for us. I always get a birthday card from you with glitter coming out of it or whatever on my birthday, or a nice little note in the mail. And even that is such a simple thing to surprise and delight, And
it does bring joy to the surpriser. Like you just said, your friend undoubtedly got so much joy creating that shrine. So it is one of those things that it becomes a two-way flow, all-way flow. So if I get into the mindset of what can I do, it becomes a game, right? What can I do? I was on a team a couple years back where we were kind of drudging through a project that I could tell I was the project manager of that project. So I'm in charge of like moving us forward. Let's keep it moving forward. But it was drudgery. It was a lot of information, a lot of details, a lot of tasks, a lot of due dates. So I got into the habit of every once in a while in one of my emails that was filled with drudgerous tasks, in the middle of the sentence to just be like, today's due date on this project is the first 5 people that see this sentence, email me with the word pickles and I'll send you a $5 Amazon gift card or something, something in the middle of the drudgery, so that at least for a few of the people, nothing's going to work universally, but at least for a few of the people, they started to look more forward to my emails because there just might be a hidden Easter egg in there, a hidden prize, a hidden something. So it's one of those things where if you say, I'm committed to this mindset, then it becomes sparkly for you to think, what can I do in this email? What can I do for this person? What can I do in this day?
We have a lot of schools that we worked in for years. And one of the schools that we were in years and years ago in Central Harlem, we had a problem getting kids to come to some of our events, right? And we didn't have money, we couldn't buy tons of new food. And the other thing we started to notice is that the kids it was not cool to eat the cafeteria food. So what would happen is that a lot of kids wouldn't eat, and so we were like, there's issue here. And we'd want to get kids up to our room for these lunchtime clubs, because there was also a lot of violence happening in the cafeteria at the time because they're not eating, right? So they're all in this room packed in, not a lot of supervision. There was just like, they were using the food more for fighting than for eating. So we were like, okay, we're going to help this we had this big space upstairs, and we said, we're going to pull folks in to these different lunchtime clubs, right? And in these lunchtime clubs, we have to offer food. We need these kids, we need these young people, this was middle school and high schoolers, to eat. And we thought, but it's not cool to eat the lunches. And they would even box up the lunches, like whatever was downstairs, they'd box them up and bring them up to us. And so what one of the young women in our team thought of was, she's like, give me those lunches. And she took all of them out. We had these baskets from our catering of teacher things. We had all these baskets left over, and she put doilies in them, and she took out all the sandwiches and put the sandwiches together, just like a caterer would do, right? Put all the fruit together. She just worked on, how can I surprise these kids so they don't even know this is a boxed lunch from the cafeteria, that this seems like something that was catered for them, right? These kids don't ever get that experience. Let's give them like as if they were at a fancy spa, but with what we've got. Like, how can we zhuzh this up, And I was like watching her and she was so excited and, adamant that this is going to work, that we all were just following her lead. And she put tablecloths out and, created beautiful space. And those kids came in there and by gosh, they ate everything.
Yes.
They didn't even recognize that food as the food that they've turned their nose up at so many times, because it was presented to them in a way that they were royalty.
Yeah, you transformed their experience.
Transform them. So then we were like, this is brilliant. So then we started doing this everywhere. And then we started, telling the other teachers, hey, if you want to get kids into your rehearsals and they need to eat, here's one way you can do it, like whatever. I think anyone can do it is the point,
anyone
right?
Can
Even
do it.
like you said, if you have no money. Yeah.
I saw TikTok recently, and I'm sure this was just like bored employees, right? Of a gas station who they had put up a sign outside the door that said something like $10 of free gas for the best dance walk in the door. And then they had their phone set up. So you watched people of all ilk, right? All variety of humans going to get gas at this gas station, walking in the door, doing their best possible dance on the way to the register to get $10 in free gas. That is a surprise and delight, spontaneous moment thought of by probably the bored cashier that brought so much joy to whoever was in that gas station store on that day, but also myself just watching it, It's one of those things where, and all you have to do is think of the question. What could I do to put a little sparkle in this moment? What could I do that would be unexpected? How can I surprise and delight this person, this room, this group of people, this marketing plan? If you're just asking yourself that question, you're elevating your own effort in a way that is fun for you and unforgettable for them,
That's right. That's right. It's just like when you do good things for others, you get more of the boost, right? It's true. The hormones that are released in your brain are causing all of this love and like amazing oxytocin and all these wonderful things that are making you feel better. So it's good for your health. It's good for your company. It's good all around. So, that's a great message for today. If you're going to try to surprise and delight somebody today, wherever you are, and see if there's a way you can bring it to your team, to your company, to your employees, to your spouse, to your friends, to your kids, to your parents, whatever. Erika, thank you. I'm jazzed up today. You've gotten me excited about trying it, and I look forward to it. And Tatiana will put some of those books that you mentioned in the notes for the episode. And let us know if you have some great ideas out there. We'd love to share those too and learn from you guys out there. That's a great one. Thanks so much, Erika.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'd like to give a special shout out to our podcast producer, Richard Francisco. Check out our notes for any details. And if you get anything out of this, please follow us. And if you enjoy it, please take a moment to rate us or write a comment. It will mean the world to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you just can't get enough, follow me on TikTok and check out tlpnyc.com/podcast for more information.